Hi,
Hello.
my name is Asilbek Yusupov. Today I'm going to be your speaking examiner. First, can you tell me your full name, please?
My name is Adilkhan Kenpeilov. You can call me by my first name.
Can you tell me your full name one more time, but a bit more slowly?
Adilkhan Kenpeilov.
Okay. And what should I call you? Adilkhan?
By my first name.
Okay, Adilkhan. So in this first part, I would ask you some questions about yourself. Let's talk about what you do first. Do you work or are you a student?
I graduated from high school, and in 2 months' time, I'm heading to Hong Kong to study my undergraduate degree.
Okay, so what are you going to study in Hong Kong?
I'm going to study international affairs with the track in government.
Why did you choose this major?
From the early childhood, I've been really passionate about politics because of my dad into politics, my granddad into politics, and I just wanted to carry on the legacy in the future.
Okay, so what are your plans after finishing university?
Probably during my university years, I'll be doing a lot of internships, gaining a lot of experience, and then coming back to Uzbekistan to try myself in the government sector.
So let's talk about birthdays. Is it important for you to celebrate your birthday?
Yeah, it's a significant moment. It's a significant moment for me to reflect on the past year, what I've achieved and celebrated with close people to me. And I usually on my birthdays take my people around and we just celebrate it.
So how did you celebrate your last birthday?
My last birthday, my friends and I went to a restaurant. We just had dinner, and after that, the friend party, I went home to have the second dinner with my family.
Okay. So what did you do on your birthday when you were younger?
Well, I don't quite remember, but from what I remember, I believe I always spent my birthdays with my friends because that was basically a tradition.
All right. And how do children in your country celebrate their birthdays?
Well, in my country, children, that's a significant moment for them. They usually spend it along with their friends and family members, basically reflecting on their lives and getting to, celebrating their another milestones.
Do you like to eat chocolate?
Yeah, I definitely like eating chocolate. My favorite one is, I don't really have a favorite one. I like all of them.
Okay. So how often do you eat chocolate?
Well, these days I try to follow the healthy diet and I limit the amount of chocolate I consume, but I usually eat on a weekly basis.
Okay. And what's your favorite flavor of chocolate? Do you have any favorite flavors?
Well, I don't really mind any type of chocolate, but the one that I genuinely like is milk chocolate.
Okay. Is it a good idea to give chocolate as a gift?
Well, it really depends, but I believe any gift is perfect if it's tied with emotional side of it.
Okay. So that's the end of part one. We'll now move on to part two. In part two, I will give you a topic and I would like you to talk about it for 1 to 2 minutes. Before you start, I will give you 1 minute to take notes. So first, there is some paper and here's a pencil. And I would like you to describe a luxury item you would like to own in the future. So that's your topic. And now I will give you 1 minute starting from now. Now, can you please start speaking?
All right, so reflecting on the luxurious items that I would like to have in the future, I could have thought about different Rolexes, different luxurious items that many famous people have, but the one that is truly resonating with me on a personal level is Volkswagen. That's a car from Mercedes. In Uzbekistan, specifically, that car is truly associated with a status symbol, and the one who has it is usually perceived as a high-value person. And that's not only, for me, Volkswagen is not basically a car, but also something that I can really think about about my childhood. For example, in childhood, I would see those cars and go on and on, like dreaming that one day I'll definitely have this type of car. And on one of my last birthdays, I had received a gift with a small model of it, and I still have it on my table on the desktop that I usually work on. And every single morning I wake up, I see that car, and that dream always keeps me pushing.
Okay. So, all right. And when do you think you'll have this car?
It truly depends on, I don't really have a specific plan on obtaining this car, but if I graduate from university and work 9 to 5, I don't really think that I will ever have this car. So I'm turning my mindset into entrepreneurship, and probably in 5 to 10 years time, I'll be driving this car.
Okay, thank you. That's the end of part 2. We'll now move on to part 3. All right, now let's talk about expensive items. Which expensive items would many young people in your country like to buy?
Well, that's probably a car, as we've already mentioned, that consider it to be a status symbol. But beyond cars, I believe a big house is also on the mind of many youngsters. And
why?
Well, having that big car, a big house, where one lives with their family members, is also a sense of comfort that they feel. So I believe like comfort, status are one of the most driving factors that influence people's desires.
Okay. Now, how do the expensive items that younger people want to buy differ from those that older people want to buy?
Well, there is a striking difference. The values between the elderly and the youngsters definitely change and definitely differ. First and foremost, I would say that the elderly are not really looking for luxurious items. They are looking for the emotional bond they have with that item. For example, my granddad has a relatively cheap watch, but he says that it has a specific meaning behind it. However, youngsters usually, as we already talked about it, are looking for specific status symbols.
Okay. And do you think that people are more likely to buy expensive items for their friends or for themselves?
Well, that's a double-edged sword, though. But I would say that there are specific people who would like to get something for their friends as much as they would like to have it themselves. For example, there are people who usually wear Rolexes and they get their friends Rolexes just to feel that connection. However, mostly, I believe people would like to get something luxurious for themselves first, definitely.
Okay, so let's talk about rich people. How difficult is it to become rich in today's world?
Well, in today's world, it was an ever increasing number of info businesses. I believe it's not that hard to get wealthy at some point, because the only thing that one needs is to get very excellent, get adept at something, and then build his own company and then sell it to as many people as possible.
Okay. And do you agree that money doesn't necessarily bring happiness?
Well, at some point, money brings happiness. It gives a lot of comfort, and it opens doors for expensive medical care. And I believe those factors are attributed to money bringing happiness. But there is definitely certain things that money cannot cover all of the factors that influence happiness levels.
Mm-hmm. Like what?
First and foremost, money can't get you love. Love is one of those things that get you fulfillment. And with money, even if you are a billionaire, there are some billionaires who are unhappy because they didn't really find that the other half of theirs. And I believe love and human interactions cannot be bought for money.
Okay. And my last question, in what ways might rich people use their money to help society?
Well, there are different ways rich people can use their resources to help people. For instance, these days, most of the rich people are asking for the government officials to give them specific tasks so that society benefits from their resources. For instance, Alisher Usmanov in Uzbekistan builds schools, repairs the roads, or just gives away to the charity.
Thank you. That's the end of our speaking test. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
So let's look back and analyze this candidate's performance. Now, if I could give this part a score, it would probably be band 9. Now, obviously I can't, because you can't give these 3 parts individual scores. But if I could, I would definitely, most probably give him a band 9, because he did start off quite strong for part 1. Like, he was able to keep his answers very short, very concise, but at the same time, very meaningful as well. He did give some ideas like reasons, explanation, or more details for almost every single answer. So part 1 was very, very good. But when it comes to part 2, I think that's where he needs to work more, because for part 2, he wasn't able to speak at length. He did speak for more than a minute. However, if you're going to get 8+, or if you want to get 9, let's say, you should definitely try to keep going as long as the examiner doesn't interrupt you, which means you have to speak at least for 1 minute and 50 seconds, if not more. But here he did speak for, I think it was 1 minute and 15 seconds, and that was it. So try to speak more in part 2 and try to avoid some repetition as well. And finally, when it comes to part 3, he was able to speak fairly fluently. Like, he did give me some ideas, reasons, explanations, and more details as well. But I think he should have given me more ideas, especially in part 3 and especially in the last 3 questions, because in part 3, you need to keep going until your examiner interrupts you almost every single time. I think you should try to speak for a minute for every single question. Now, obviously, your examiner doesn't probably give you the chance to do so, but if you could keep going until you make your examiner stop you, I think that's a good sign. You're probably going to get 8+, if not 9. That's personally what I experienced in my exams, and that's what you should be aiming for as well. And I think that's what this candidate probably should do in his exam in the future. Now, let's talk about the most interesting part, the score, right? Once again, I would like to remind you all, we have 4 marking criteria. So we have fluency and coherence, grammatical range and accuracy, pronunciation, and lexical resource. Let's start with fluency and coherence, because I think that's where he's a bit lacking. He did show some hesitation in parts 2 and 3. So you could show hesitation. There's no problem with hesitation, but there are 2 kinds of hesitation. One of them is content related, one of them is language related. And I think he did show a mix of both. And you should not show any language related hesitation in any of the parts at all. Because if you do, that's going to reduce your score to 7, maybe 8, but you can never get band 9. So you can hesitate, but they have to be, like, all of your hesitations have to be related to your content, not your language. So for fluency and coherence, I would probably give 8. It's definitely better than 7, but it's not good enough for 9 yet. Now, pronunciation. Again, when it comes to pronunciation, he did vary his tone most of the time, but it wasn't all the time. And if you can't vary your tone all the time, especially like if you don't raise and maybe lower your voice at times quite noticeably, you cannot get a band 9, because you do have to show your intonation to your examiner. So again, it's not good enough for band 9, but it's definitely better than 7. So I would give pronunciation 8 as well. When it comes to lexical resource, his vocabulary was great. If I had to say, he probably needed to use more topic specific and precise vocabulary, especially in parts 3. That's it. So if he used a bit more topic specific and very precise vocabulary, I would have given him 9 as well. And he did make a couple of mistakes with some of the expressions he used for grammar and for vocabulary. If you're going to make even a single mistake, you can never get a band 9. That's how strict the requirements are for a band 9 for grammar and for vocabulary, and he did make a couple of mistakes. So it cannot be a band 9, but it's definitely 8, a strong, solid 8. And for grammar, the same thing. He did make very few mistakes, but he did make them nonetheless. So if you make a couple of mistakes, you're still going to get 8 if your grammar is mostly good, like error-free, but you can never get a band 9. And so for this reason, I would give him a strong 8 overall across the board.